What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for yet another panel show for you guys today, and we have got a treat for you today. It's the dream team. It's the last word on Spurs boys, Ricky Sachs and Lee McQueen. Starting off with you, Ricky. How you doing today, brother?
I'm good, thanks, boys. Always a pleasure to be back on here. Hope you boys are well. And look, it's been a really, really good last few days. Of course, still reveling in that win over Manchester United. And many now will feel, can that be the momentum gainer we've all been waiting for this season? We've got obviously a big run of fixtures coming between now and end of the year. It feels like it's, yeah, as you guys know, kind of Thursday, Sunday, a couple of international breaks in between. But hopefully that's the result we've all been craving out for, a winner away at a traditional top 3, top 4 club in Manchester United. Obviously, I know we beat Villa last season and that was a great win. But what I want to see from Spurs now is to not rest on their laurels, go and follow that up. Because I think if you guys remember last time we felt this way, I would say last season on the back of that win against Villa, we obviously lost Fulham in quite bad terms the following week. So I really want us to use that as the yardstick for the performance to move forward now. And hopefully that'll give the lads full confidence. And I think there's no doubt about it. You know, maybe a few weeks ago, I questioned whether there's been like a buy-in under Ange. I mean, look, based on that performance on Sunday, I know many will talk about how bad Man United were. I'll look at the fact Spurs were making United look pretty bad, to be honest with you. I think the players are playing for Ange and they've got that desire and belief in them now that they fully seem to know their jobs, which is great to see.
We very rarely follow up big wins with big. So how often have we had a big win and then it just like we fall flat on our faces the next week? Didn't we we beat City away, didn't we? Then when and lost 1-0 to Burnley, I think the next week, wasn't it?
The time is now, Sim. The time is now to kick on.
Always like that.
The time is now. Ange Postecoglou's second season. He always wins something in his second season, so it's really time to kick on. I think Lee's having a. Oh, is Lee back?
Yeah,
I'm back.
He's back. Lee, how are you, my friend?
Sorry, I just totally ruined that. Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good mate, good mate. I mean, it seems like it's a very long time ago now that we lost to Arsenal in the league. Everyone was in disarray. The panic stations were in, and now 4 wins on the trot. Dom Solanke, Brennan Johnson banging in the goals for fun. How are you feeling?
Well, some people in disarray. Obviously, most people after we lose against Arsenal in disarray. But it's I tell you what, I've seen more flip flop in this fan base than Javianas. You know what I mean? Unbelievable. Got to stay strong, team. You got to stay strong. No, look, feeling good. I think what's that? 4 in 4 now for Brennan Johnson. 3 and 3 for Dom Solanke. You know, a couple of really good wins in the Premier League. Some people will say, obviously, yeah, it was only Everton that we beat 4, and it was only Brentford. Now people say it was only Man United. But you know, the reality of the situation is to go up to Old Trafford, and I know you boys were there, to go up to Old Trafford. And let's be honest about it, we absolutely tore them a new one, didn't we? Like, we absolutely ripped them apart. And sending off or no sending off, obviously, we did a show. Ricky and I, last one on Spurs, did a show straight after the game. And your guys' content as well. I watched all your content yesterday. And the general consensus is that, you know, the sending off didn't really make much of a difference, to be honest. In actual fact, they probably played better, to be fair, you know, after that 10-minute spell. So, yeah, feeling really good. And I think that change is hard. And we're going through massive change. Whether or not people want a project, whether or not they like the word or not like the word, it's whatever you feel. I'm not telling you how to feel. What I am saying, though, is change is hard. And we're going for a huge amount of it. And
Lee, you're sounding an awful lot like Ange Postecoglou at the moment.
Well, I mean, this is the reality. Like, you know, I don't want to paraphrase Ange, and I don't want to sound like Ange, but I feel the same way. Like, I've believed in him since he's come in. A lot of people forget that, you know, we were going down Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and just leaving there flat as a pancake, watching Nuno, watching Jose, watching Conte, watching Stellini, and most of the crowd. You know, we interact with everybody as you boys do. You know, most of the crowd say, I just want to see good football. I just want to see us go on the front foot. Now, we are getting that in abundance. And, of course, there's going to be times where we get battered. And of course, there's going to be some times where we don't, but we lose football matches. Like, I think the Arsenal football match, no one likes to admit it, but they come and done a perfect away performance on us, in my opinion. Just my opinion, of course. You know, with a 1-0. I don't think our performances at all have warranted the points that we've got or haven't got, as the case may be. And we could easily be in the top 2, top 3 based on our performances this year. I mean, don't forget we're only 4 points off of Man City and Arsenal, by the way, and that's the draw against Leicester and obviously the loss against Newcastle. Now, football is if buts and maybes, and if only we did this and could we have done that. But the reality is, lads, that we've been playing really, really well. Probably, ironically, our worst performance of the season has come against Coventry, which who cares because we got through to the next round. So you know. People keep telling me, don't matter how you play in cup competition, just want to get through, just want to win a cup. So the reality is we should be happy, and I am. And I'm getting carried away. Why not? Let's go.
Boys, on the back of that, I just wonder how big that Jed Spence goal was in the context of Spurs' season. When you look back at the timing of that goal, I think that would have been, you know, again, not to be negative and bring it down, it would have been what we're heading for, was it 2 away wins in the last 16, 17 games. The mood was fairly low. A lot of question marks on the back of that Arsenal defeat. Coventry, you know, being the next game. And I think for those that listen and watch last one on Spurs, and I've been on here, boys, I think you all know that for me, above any finish in the Premier League, apart from top, the cups are everything to me. I want to see the club go as far as they can in terms of the League Cup, the FA Cup, the Europa League. So for me, that was a massive game, the Coventry game. And I hate to say this, people might think I'm crazy, as big as the Arsenal game for me, because I want to see the club win a trophy. So I look back at that goal from Spence and just the momentum swing in terms of these games we've had since, that it felt like a really big moment in the season. People might laugh and say that.
People were saying, was it Ange's Harry Kane against Villa moment?
Well, you know what I mean. I think you look. I said that after the Sunday's game, you know, is that Ange's eureka moment? Because to be fair, whether it's rightly or wrongly, Ange in the presser afterwards he used the word befuddled by the criticism, and maybe the fact that, you know, we are as Lee says part of a project and part of a journey. Where I agree with Lee that we were seeing real poor football over the course of 2-3 seasons. At the same time, I don't think that should always legislate for seeing goals being shipped the way we did last season. I think for me, what I said about this season is I want to see a lot of learning happening. I want to see players taking accountability along with the manager and seeing some growth. And I think, look, there's no doubt about it. When you look at our performances in the Premier League, I think there has been growth in that. You can't deny that, the way Spurs started the season. I think the key thing for me now is that, as I've said, to go back to my original opening, is that we had a very similar performance and win against Aston Villa, as you guys will remember, back in the last season, where we thought that was going to be the run to, you know, spur us on, pardon the pun, to a top 4 finish. I want to see that United performance now be the catalyst and the point where, okay, we can do this week in, week out. Yes, we won't get performances every week, but I want to now see Spurs take that performance and use that as a template moving forward, because we have got good players. I think we've now, and we'll come on to it, stumbled across a system where I think we do know the best 9-10 players out there to play week in, week out. And I think it's now just giving the confidence to the lads that we can do that anywhere, not just at Man United, because we have got good players. But defensively, as we know, we've had back-to-back clean sheets for what I probably would say is the first time under Ange Postecoglou.
I looked it up. It was the first time since October where we got a back-to-back clean sheets against Luton and Fulham.
It can't be a rarity, though, Sim. You know, I hate to say this, and people might go mad at me for saying this, you know, any team that's successful, look back in the history of the Premier League or around the world, every team is built on solid foundations. You can't concede 2-3 every week and expect to be fighting at the higher echelons of the league or wherever you're going to be. So I really want us to use that template now. We've got good players defensively. I love that Ange just tweaked it slightly. You know, I said that last season. We just wanted a few cute little nuanced tweaks. We've seen that under Ange, and I'm really positive now, which is great to be, because I want to be positive. I don't want to be negative. I want to be positive about thinking forward now that we're in all the competitions. We've got a great cracking cup tie to come against Man City, which I think we're all excited now, looking forward to. And look, let's enjoy it. Let's enjoy it. I said it before, if you can't enjoy a win against Manchester United in that style, I mean, what are we doing as fans? You've got to be able to enjoy wins like that.
100%. You know, the naysayers will be like, oh, but it's the worst Man United team we've seen in God knows how long. But, you know, whenever you go up to Old Trafford, it's going to be a difficult game. And
they weren't saying that before the game, were they?
No, they weren't. Man United fans were coming into it with confidence. They thought they were going to do us over. But I love it, Lee, because, you know, my first question was going to be, are Spurs back on track? And you kind of just swept away and got into it without me even asking. So this is probably the best panel we've ever had. You know, I don't even need to ask the questions. You answer them anyway. mate. But
it's interesting, isn't it? Because Ange was asked that after the game, wasn't he? Asked Tottenham like back on track if they turned the corner, and exactly what Ricky said. He used the word befuddled, saying, you know, if anyone's watched the games this season and if anyone's seen how we play, you know, they would understand the context of how those results came. And he's essentially saying like we've been playing similar way the whole season, but now just results are matching performances rather than before. So I do, but it does beg the question, like, last 4 games we won 4 in a row, but has there been like do you guys think there's been like a massive difference in the last 4 games, or has these results just been coming and we've just been unlucky before?
I think the results have been coming. I think we did a show straight after the Leicester Tottenham game when we drew that game, and it felt like a loss, and it was like, you know, me against the world on that show. It felt like, you know, everyone was coming on, we're useless, we're crap, get rid of Ange. It was, you know, Ange out. It was just mental, absolute mad show. And I was like, I'm not seeing that though. I'm seeing, yeah, a couple of the same mistakes. So, you know, Vardy gets loose at the back post and no one's marking him, whatever. But the key thing for me for that game was that we didn't score enough goals. We absolutely ruined them, didn't score enough goals. Then we play Newcastle, didn't score enough goals. Like, we play Everton, we score enough goals, right? But we could have scored more. We battered Newcastle. We didn't take our chances against Arsenal, but the chances were coming. The time to be, for me, the way I watch football and consume football, the time to be worried will be when you're not creating chances, when you have no idea, when you're running around the pitch thinking, I'm an individual. A little bit like Man United was yesterday. Sorry, Sunday. Not being rude to them, but that's what they're like, aren't they? You know, there's no plan, there's no action. You know now Tottenham are going to come out, they've got an identity, then you know the way they're going to play, you know they're going to take a risk. And some people aren't, you know, they're risk averse. Some people are very risk averse. Some people are all or nothing. Some people will take risks. And that's why the passion of football and everyone's opinion is so beautiful. That's why we love the game. Let's be fair about it. Mickey van der Ven does not score that, get that assist and get the assist against Everton if we're Antonio Conte team. If we're it doesn't happen. So, you know, you can't have them situations and celebrate them and say, oh my God, that was amazing, if you want to be pragmatic as well. So, you know, because one don't go with the other. I do agree with Rick, actually, Ricky. I do agree with you on, you know, solid defences, you know. Attacks win games and, you know, defences win titles, right? I think that's it, or something around that. But that's why, you know, we've got the second best defensive record in the league after 6 games, which is quite incredible, isn't it? Considering how many people are telling me that we're so open, and how many people are saying that we're so naive, and how many people on social media are in and around the ground, you know, even on the WhatsApp groups, even my mates are saying to me, nah, this is not sustainable. I've been told Antonio Conte's way wasn't sustainable, Jose's way wasn't sustainable. You know, now I'm being told Ange's way is not sustainable. I actually think, lads and viewers and listeners who goes out on the podcast as well, that the synergies between what Ange is changing and what Poch changed, so we talk about Poch now, can't we? Because he's not at Chelsea anymore. Is very, very similar, and I'm getting the same vibe. And I've got to be honest with you, I think this guy can do it. And I said this the other day on X, and I'll say it on your brilliant show. If the board don't bottle this, and they normally do, but if the board don't bottle this and they back Ange and they keep him, I think he's going to win the lot, mate. Generally, no, it might
come
not be
on,
this
Lee.
year.
Come on, that's the positivity we need on this show.
And the thing is about this fan base, and I'm not having a dig at all the different fans, but, you know, because I am the fan base as well, right? I go away games when I can. I go to every single home game. I pay my money, despite most people think I'm paid by the club. It's absolute rubbish. I do all of them things. I invest my time, my effort. You know, I've got 3 young daughters. You know, I know we're parents on here now. Ben, you're getting sleep now, fella? Yeah, nice.
Don't worry, no. These bags of my eyes are not for no reason.
Looking good. I'm loving the hair as well, mate. But look, the reality is that we invest our time and energy in going to these football matches because this is our love. And we could be doing something else. So, you know, so I'm not having a go at the fans when I say it, but it is ingrained in Tottenham Hotspur fans to feel like it's about to go wrong. it's ingrained in us to feel pessimistic. And so when somebody like myself comes out, and I'm an optimistic guy, right? It's why I build the businesses I do. It's why I gravitate around successful people. And the reality is that when I'm optimistic about Spurs, people ridicule it. But you have to be successful. So if we think we're going to lose, we end up losing. And I think that is always that's probably got to be the biggest change that Ange will have to make, and that probably will only come. Maybe it comes with me straight away when I see the style of football. Maybe for Ben, Sim, for you two, it comes when we beat Man United. Maybe Ricky, it comes when we win a trophy. But there'll be some, it won't come until we win the Champions League, and that might be in 10 years. Yeah. Do you see what I'm coming for?
I think that's so important what Lee says there. It is about a culture change. And the problem is, I mean, look, we've all been scolded as Spurs fans. We've always had a lot of false storms where we think, okay, we're getting there. And again, we're not back down. I think the real key is, as we've said there, he's not only changing a mindset in the actual dressing room and the club, he's got to try and change a mindset of a fan base that has been really, really badly scolded over the course of how many years you've supported this club, 30,
since the
years.
80s.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the same time, I think what I would say is that when you're looking at Spurs at the moment from the outside looking in, I know there's been a lot in the last few weeks about the negativity around the form, but was it most XG, most touches in the box, most shots on goal? I think Lee said second best defence at the moment, third most attempts as well. I think all those things that are coming around and fueling us is sending to us, this does appear to be working. It just needs to take a bit of time. My biggest criticism so far has been that I'm not sure if he's got the calibre of players in the domain in terms of a squad to be able to play the way he wants to play. So my concern is if you take out a Mickey van der Ven, a Rodrigo Bentancur will probably come on to a little bit, and again, you lose Dominic Solanke the way we did, can we play this way? Is it sustainable? And, again, you might say to me, well, look at City now, they've lost Rodri, how are they going to cope? The great thing that Lee picked up on in the last show we did on last one on Spurs was that Guardiola's immediate reaction to losing Rodri was, this is a big problem. We're going to really, really miss him. Whereas Ange's reaction to losing Sonny in the interview before United was like, got to get on with it. I've had players missing here since I've took the job. I've had issues where I've had players that have gone down last minute. Got to get on with it. And that attitude is so, so crucial because that could have easily, as we've seen before, had a negative impact on Spurs going into a game where you lose your captain, you lose a key player, and it directly influences the game. And it's very much about, as Lee has said, and the way Lee is as a person, positive thinking, PMA, looking at the benefits rather than the hindrances. And you know what? I think we as fans have got to get our heads around the fact we've got a real positive mindset of a manager in charge. And something that Lisa, we've not just been used to over the last 3-4 years. We've had managers that have come here
5 years telling us that we can't do it. It's like it was meaning us, isn't it? From these managers saying we're not good enough, we ain't gonna. It's gonna be a miracle. It'd be a miracle if we get top 6. I mean, you direct quotes from Conte, where this is the guy running our football club, and now it feels like certain sections of the fan base that are embarrassed that Ange's coming out and being positive. Why are you embarrassed? We want to manage.
Lee, you take it back to Jose Mourinho when Harry Kane got that injury. He's basically saying, season's over, there's no, what are we going to do now?
I've got a gun with no bullets.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And our best player going out under Ange, and he's not worried. Timo Werner comes in, no problem.
What did Ange say? He said that when you asked about, if there's ever any reason, he can't win the league, is that there's always a million reasons why you can't do something. I'm focused on the ways we can do something.
Yeah, and I love that attitude. I love that attitude. But in terms of Spurs being back on track, I take it back to your point, what you said earlier in the show, Ricky, about the Aston Villa win last season. And I'll tell you, I think there are key differences here. I think in the build-up to that Aston Villa game, we had a couple of poor results. I think we lost to Wolves a couple of weeks before, drew to someone away from home. We drew to Everton as well in that period. And I don't feel we were playing well at that moment in time. Maybe we had a slightly good performance at Man United, but nothing like the performance that we just had just now at Old Trafford. I feel like from the start of the season up until now, we're playing the exact way that Ange wants us to play. High pressing, winning the ball back high up the pitch, creating chances. I think maybe apart from the Arsenal game where we couldn't break them down maybe as often as we wanted to, like we did against Leicester, Newcastle, Man United and Everton and Brentford, I feel like you're seeing a clear identity, and Ange says it He said it at the end of the Brentford game, and he said it at the end of the Man United game. This is exactly who we want to be, and I don't think we've heard him say that throughout his Spurs tenure so far. So the way I'm looking at it is that were Spurs really ever off track? Just because we weren't getting the results in the first few games of the season, does that mean we weren't off track? I think we were on track. We just weren't putting the ball in the back of the net. So this question about Spurs being off track and the fans that were throwing their toys out the pram, I think people, including myself, I threw my toys out the pram after a North London derby defeat, because I don't think losing 3 at home in a row to Arsenal 3 years in a row is good enough. Yeah. But when you look at the bigger picture, and when you look at the way Spurs have been playing in the build up to that game, and and after that game, Coventry game aside, because it was 9 changes, however many it was, I don't feel like we were ever off track. I think we've been playing brilliantly all season, and these results and these performances have been coming, in my opinion.
I think the main... Go on.
No, go on, Tim. Go
on, Tim.
No, I was going to say, I think the main difference I'm seeing in the last few games to what I saw maybe in the first 4 games is I think our pressing this season has been phenomenal. I think when teams are trying to build up and trying to play against us, we have been so great at catching down. That includes the Arsenal game, by the way. I think our pressing has been so good, and we've been winning the ball in really great situations. I think the big difference what I've seen in the last few games to what I've seen in the first 4 games maybe is when we do win the ball in those high situations, we're really exploiting those situations. We're actually creating big chances now, and we're actually making use of those situations. I feel like in the first 4 games, we would win the ball in really good situations, and we wouldn't exploit those situations. We wouldn't create good chances. We waste them. We're being very wasteful in those scenarios. But against Brentford and against Man United in those last 2 games, and against Karabag even, when we've won the ball half the pitch, we're making sure we're clinical, we're making sure we're getting in the box, we're making sure we're actually creating a chance. And that wasn't the case in the past few games. That's been one of the big changes I think I've seen.
Can I also add on to that, if you don't mind, Sim, that, again, I said this in the intro of the show, that I really genuinely feel there has been some tweaks that behind the scenes maybe some haven't seen with Ange. If you look at Pedro's positioning against United, he was nowhere near as high up as what he has been in previous games. So I honestly think, maybe to the eye test, now this is why I say, go into games, you see it a lot more clearer than maybe what you do on the TV in terms of players' positioning. We are seeing now certain tweaks and adaptations to the game that we weren't maybe seeing last season. Again, we saw the City game, which I know fans really conflicted about, where Ange did change it. Was it the game everyone changed for? I mean, that was, again, an open debate. But the reality is that I have seen in the last couple of games us tweak it. And I think we look all the better for that now. Now, look, again, we can have the next couple of games where it doesn't go right for us. But I think the key that a lot of people have felt about the football is we are enjoying it. We are liking it. But at the same time, there's got to be a feeling that this can be delivered over a long-term course. And the thing what I saw against Man United is that players are really buying into this now. And that, for me, has been my biggest question, whether the likes of James Maddison is fully bought in. You see some of the reaction when he's coming off the bench in terms of being substituted. Doesn't look that quite happy. I think Dominic Solanke, I think as Lee's touched upon as well, adds a different dimension to the way Spurs want to play and want to press. He was the highest presser in the Premier League last season. And you just see the way he's fitted in, like he's never really, been away from a Tottenham team. Even though, like I say, he missed the first game and so, and again, he was out for a period. But you can just see Spurs look such a better team for having Dom in there. And again, with no disrespect, would Spurs have played that way had Sonny been fit? And again, it throws up different questions, really, as to the way Spurs will want to now play in the next few games. But the great thing is that all those players now, I feel, with a result like that, have got a belief that this can work. And I'm not saying I didn't feel it was going to work, but I did have reservations and concerns whether there was full buy-in from the players. But I think Benson...
I don't agree with that. I think that, I mean, Jason, one of our own on our show, says this all the time. Like, year one is about, getting rid of the people that can't do it. And then year two is, year one is about getting rid of the people that won't do it. And I think he's done that. And year two is about getting rid of the people that that they can't do it. And that's that ability thing. I think that whole buy-in thing with the James Maddison referring to an interview that he gave, a few months ago. I think he's been a breath of fresh air. I actually think that this is just my humble opinion is that the injury that he suffered last year was actually bigger for him mentally than actually that we all thought. You know, you can see that with Rodrigo Bentancur, for example, 2 major injuries, one then another one, and forget all of his problems off the pitch. I'm sure we'll come to that later. But you can see now the way he's moving around that pitch because he's had a year to recover. Are you with me, Sim? And I just don't think Maddison had that time to recover. I think that ankle injury was bigger than what it was. But actually, this year it's not because he's bought in more to the Ange way. In my opinion, I think it's because he's fully fit now, and now he can do the thing. And actually, the tweaks, I agree with a little. You said about the little tweaks. One of the tweaks is that he's kind of almost playing Maddison as a left-sided in a 3 or a little bit deeper as an 8.
And definitely coming into that 10 position.
Yeah, and actually having Kulusevski there. I mean, I think the 2 of them have been playing brilliantly together as well. So I'm not sure it's a buy-in thing. Look, we'll probably never know. In fact, we'll never know. But my opinion is it's probably a fitness thing. I think these elite footballers, we expect so much of them to be superhuman, essentially. And you know, a guy's out or a lady's out for 2-3 weeks or whatever, or for a month, and then we think, yeah, they're going to get back straight away. And the reality is that, you know, it's horses for courses, right? They're an elite sports person, so they get back fit better than somebody like my good self. But equally, they're against elite footballers, so they have to be at that level, and it takes time to get it back. Does that make sense, team? So I just that, like, I'm not trying to stick up for the player. I am trying to stick up for the players.
Say it how it is, Lee.
Yeah, exactly. Right. When you've had an injury, sometimes, you know, us punters think, well, hang on a minute, you should be much better than what you are. But it takes time to recover from what you've had. And I think that's probably more of the case in this situation.
I guess the main thing, Ricky's on board now. That's the main thing, isn't it?
I mean, I just think Maddison looks happier. I mean, I'm not saying he wasn't happy before, but he looks happier.
He weren't injured. Because he was injured, but now he's not.
Well, that's what Ange said. Ange said, you know, Maddison, the way he plays, he needs to have absolute full mobility. He needs to be actually clear mentally of all the worries about the injury. And I think at the moment he's playing the best he's ever played. Even when you you look back at the first 10 games of last season, he played was brilliant. But I think he's been another level this season, especially the last couple of games. I think these are the best moments he's shown. I think.
Yeah, but what do you expect? Like, why would he be showing his happy self when the team are not winning consistently? They're not playing the way the manager wants consistently, and there are players which are on form right now. They're playing well. Yeah, maybe in the beginning part of the season we weren't getting the consistent results, but we were still playing well and, you know, identifying what the manager wants out of the team. So I think it's no surprise that Maddison looks a lot happier now than maybe he did in the second half of last season.
I think also, Ben, the key, if you notice that, I'm not saying that Kulu's a direct competitor for his spot, but now it feels like with Kulu finding his role that we all said in pre-season, God, this guy looks great centrally, is that I think it sounds bizarre. Tottenham do this a lot. They stumble upon their best midfield when everybody was saying in the summer, we've got to go out and buy number 6, we've got to go out and buy competition for Maddison. And now suddenly, I'm not saying this is all fixed and resolved and we don't need to look in terms of those areas of improvement, but I think we all now, I felt, on the back of that game Sunday, felt, you know what? That to me looks Spurs' midfield nailed on. Maddison, Bentancur, Kulusevski in there. And the way those three complement each other, they look so comfortable. They look so fluid. They look so adaptable. And, you know, it's just a shame, not to bring on a downer, that we've got the ban hanging over our head with Bentancur, which, you know, whatever we think rightly or wrongly, you know, there has to be unfortunately, there has to be a punishment there because of the nature of what happened. It's just a real shame because I think with Bentancur, we've seen this before, that pre the ACL injury, he was formidable. We could see the kind of player that he was growing into. The shame now is that he'll be our Thursday night man, which is not a problem, but I think we'll really miss him in the Premier League games because my concern is that the difference between him and Basuma can be quite substantial because Bentancur's got that ability to be not only read the game, but be fully concentrated. And look, I think Basuma on his day is a fabulous player. We saw in the opening 10 games of last season. I'm not sure whether he's got that ability like Bentancur to be able to read the game as thoroughly, to be able to perform over the nature of a number of games. But we're going to find out, of course. But I feel somehow Spurs have stumbled upon their best midfield selection. And now we've got this dynamo with Bentancur hanging over us. It's a real shame. But amazing midfield performance, amazing general performance at the weekend.
Essentially, a couple of weeks ago, people were saying different. People were saying they're worried if Basuma is injured and Bentancur, because of the gap between him and Bentancur.
I'm not that worried.
Different.
I'm not that worried about Bentancur being out. You know, I think it gives an opportunity for Basuma to come in and show what he's about. And I think that after the whole balloon situation, I think he responded the next game in the most perfect manner. He showed exactly what he's about. And after that injury, I remember when the last international break came about and Basuma, the injury came about, everyone was like, oh, what are we going to do without Basuma? He's playing so well. So, you know, with these kind of things, different opportunities arise for different players. So it's up to Basuma to step up now.
I agree with Ricky, by the way, when he says, I think in terms of the difference between Bentancur and Basuma, I think Bentancur, the difference I see, the main difference is I think Bentancur reads the game and he's a lot more disciplined than Basuma. I think Basuma, like, he's great, but when he loses concentration, he can put us in a bit of trouble sometimes. I think Bentancur, because he used to play, I think, that position for Juventus for a number of years. He was actually, when they were winning leagues, he was very much a consistent performer and a regular. I think there was one period before we signed him, like over like a 2-year period, he had been one of their most used players. So this is a guy who is used to playing at that kind of level for at consistent levels, right, in that position. So he does know it, and I think he's very much more disciplined than someone like Basuma, who'll stick to that position. And I think he knows when to jump in and press and win the ball back, and he knows when to stick in position. Whereas I feel like sometimes Basuma can, in his decision making, in that fact, can leave us in a bit of trouble and leave us being a bit too open. So I'm really enjoying Bentancur, but it's interesting how after Sunday, that need for a number 6, people aren't talking about it as much, are they? After it was a big talking point in the summer.
When you play Man United, you don't need him at midfield, do you? To be fair, you can just side pick up, if I can, lads, on a couple of things on that. So one of the things that you just said there, which I agree with, is that competition. No, I'm with Ben. I'm not worried if it's Bentancur or Basuma, to be fair. I mean, Basuma's come back in. I mean, not being funny, who would you want in the side versus Brighton? Probably Basuma, right? Going back to his old club, he's got like wrong to right from the last. He missed. I think, did he not miss the match because he was banned for it last time around? I think off the top of my head, he got the red card and then he couldn't play against his old club. Blah blah blah. So you probably want a Basuma situation in now. But I agree with the competition for places. Basuma and Bentancur for that competition. Sarr, I just want to give it. I know we'll probably come to it. I want to give him a shout out. He's come off the bench. This guy was starting every single week last season. He's now not because of competition for places, which is what we all want. That central midfield area. He's come off the bench and scored in midweek when we had 10 men. Did he come off the bench? No, he started. Sorry, so he scored in midweek. He's come off the bench and got an assist, and a great assist to that as well against Manchester United and Old Trafford. So that competition for places, like, because he's rotating, and I know the Coventry performance was shocking, but we got through. Because he's rotating, he's now giving us a situation where every 3 days you're not worried if it's Basuma or Bentancur, or you're not worried if Star drops in and or Bergvall, or you know what, Johnson needs a rest. He can put Decky out wide, not his best position as we just discussed, but he changed it up in the game, didn't he? And put Decky out wide because of that, and that's the options that we're now getting. So the performance levels aren't dropping off. Whereas years gone by, you talk about, this is what you're saying about, we'll call ourselves, too short FC from the board because we're always too short FC. But the reality is that, the squad has got much better in a sense of the drop off that we had from a Basuma to a Højbjerg, as an example, or an Ollie Skip or Harry Winks back in the day.
Emerson and all the
but now. But now you've got people saying, "Oh, we need Destiny's cover." But Jet Spence comes on yesterday for a whole half against Manchester United. He's done great. Brilliant. The left back as well. So the drop off used to be, I don't know, maybe 20%, or maybe it was 10%, and now it's only 2%. So it's still a drop off in certain areas, but it's still good. Maddison coming off with 10, 15 minutes to go or 10 minutes to go gives him that energy recovery scenario for the next game. And we've got Lucas Bergvall coming on. He takes a corner, and it was an amazing corner, and we get another goal out of it. So see where I'm coming from, lads. I think that the drop-off has changed. The competition for places is there. And I just wanted to throw this one in there as well. Is we play the way we want to, as Sim started singing yesterday. We play the way we want to under Ange Postecoglou, right? But the reality is if we don't play that way, Mickey doesn't get that assist. If we don't play that way, do United equalise? And that's the point. We go 1-0.
Yeah, very
we
true.
sit back and we invite the pressure and we encourage Old Trafford to come onto us. I think that we've all seen that in our world. And, you know, 10 men, 9 men, park the bus, whatever you want to do. The reality is that the team pushing normally ends up getting the right result. And that's us as a holistic view. We're always on the front foot now. We're always pushing. And typically you end up getting the rewards for that. So I'm all for it.
Exactly.
That's what I was saying on Thursday. Like, everyone was criticising, because we were down to 10 men, we were so open, we could have conceded all these goals. Like, that's true. We were open because of the way we played, but also, would we have scored those 3 goals if we didn't play the way we approached that with 10 men? Whereas most managers would have, with 10 men sat back, like Arteta did, low block, and try and see out a 0-0 essentially. So, like,
yeah, I would say there's a lot of difference though playing Karabag and playing Man City at the Etihad.
The Man City of Azerbaijan.
I mean, I would just say on that point, I think Andrew's made it very, very clear, and he said it, I think, with Bridgie in his interview before the game, ahead of this one at United, that he's not going to change his way of playing. He firmly believes that his way of playing is his own best way of getting results. Wherever he's been, that is what he stuck to. And I think, what we're now seeing is that all the time you're seeing teams that are craving an identity. And everyone actually, for whatever they think about Ange or whether they've had their stumbling blocks this season or whatever, everyone seems to gravitate to Spurs and say, well, look, they've got a philosophy. And it took less than 6 to 12 months to get there. And I think the key is that for a long, long time, we've been waiting to find out the team we want to be. We know that. And the thing which is clear is the manager knows the team he wants us to be. And the only reservation I've had for me is that we need to sign more like-minded players that want to play the way Ange plays. Now, again, in the summer, we were highly critical of the fact there wasn't many, in my opinion, experienced heads coming in. There's a lot of youngsters coming in. But if this is what it takes to buy into his way and they're going to be good enough, I've got no problem with that at all. But I think the test for Spurs will come, with no disrespect, in these next 4 or 5 games. You might say, well, hold on a second. Everyone was saying the test was after Coventry. And yeah, we've come through that. But I think we have seen this before as Tottenham fans. We've had a great result away from home at a big club. I go back to Villa last season. Sorry to use that as the comparison I've been doing on the show so far, but I need to see this now as a momentum gainer for us to continue the run we're on. We've got 4 wins in a row. Yes, of course, involved in that has been Coventry and Karabag again. Karabag were, by all means, everyone said, I think they had over 400 plus international caps in their side. They weren't a bad team. So this is now a real opportunity for Spurs to gain momentum, carry the run on. And look, if Ange keeps on winning, there's less and less doubters. So, and that is what football is, boys. You know what? Despite the way you want to play, it is a results-based business. If you're not getting results, then you're going to be under pressure. And he knows that as well. He's not stupid. So, please, God, there's more and more performances like that to come.
I think it's safe to say then, judging by this chat, then Spurs are more than definitely on track. I'm not going to say back on track because I don't think we've been on track since probably the first 10 games of last season. But I think from the start of this season, Spurs have definitely been on track to, you've seen definite improvements. If it's the graphs that you leave very much likes, then it'll be an upward trajectory, that's for sure. I want to touch on Kulusevski, as Phil P. Super Chat says, the Kulu Defence League says you're welcome, KDL. And we got a new member to the We Are Tottenham family in Son Forever. So welcome to the silver membership to Son Forever.